And welcome to another episode of Experts Speak. I'm Michael DeLon, and today I'm talking with Tim the Girl McDiarmid. Tim, thanks for squeezing me into your calendar.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Well, it's going to be a great conversation. Tim is a serial entrepreneur. She's built lots of businesses. She's got a ton of things going on, but she's got the lifestyle that most business owners dream of when we go into business. And we're going to talk a little bit about that and how we can get there. So as we start to dive into that, Tim, just tell us, how in the world did you get to where you are today and doing what you do today?
Wow, that could take us like the next probably month, Michael. The beginning, no. So let's start with, I am originally from the West Coast of Canada. I grew up in a very wild rural environment, with, gardens and fields and horses and flowers and lakes. And then I moved to New York City for almost 20 years. Wow. And at the end of that, I ended up in a very bad relationship and I had a child, and I ended up, there's lots of in-between story, but through many legalities in this and custody and whatever, I ended up in San Antonio, Texas, in a place where I was completely a stranger and unknown, didn't understand. It was like moving to me, like from the wild hip Canadian hippie to living in Texas was like moving to an alternate reality. And I had a kid and I was a full-time single parent. And it's interesting because I've been on, podcasts, panel discussions, and you hear so many of the visionary that has, I remember my dad came home and wearing the robes and I always knew I was going to be a judge. And I'm like, yeah. So I just had to figure out how to support my son and I, and in a place where I didn't really have any connections. And so I started, the very beginning was I had worked in the culinary industry most of my life. Anything from cooking for a couple hundred people on an organic working horse-drawn theater company to restaurants in New York City, super hip ones, to, just across the board. And I started cooking out of my house because I could do that while my son slept. And I also have a funny little, there was a time when I decided I was going to get a job, and I hadn't had like a job in quite a while because I had started little businesses here and there in New York. And I wrote this resume and I showed it to a good friend and he said, "Oh my God, this is totally amazing. I would for sure hire you. And then I would meet you." And I'd be like, that girl's not working for me. I was a little bit taken aback, and then I realized that he was totally right. And he's like, "I think you're gonna have to figure out how to do something on your own because you're a little bit unruly and unhireable." So first started as private chef and nutritional consulting, working out of my house, out of my home kitchen. While my son slept, I would pick him up at school. He would do deliveries with me. It was, yeah. And that then led to, I got too many clients. I started a meal delivery service, which was way before any of the, the national things, right? Yeah. It was essentially kind of like, here's the menu I'm making for the week and who wants to sign up. I'm going to take the first 20 people and I would make their meals for the week. Wow. And deliver it myself. And then I started getting busy, started hiring people. I also, during this, I host culinary, like food, shopping, cool trips in Italy every summer with one of my best friends I grew up with. I've been doing that for 12 years. So that was very convenient at that time. I could shut the business down for summer and I would go there.
Sure. And
then I went there was a client I had on one of the trips that there were a few clients from San Antonio. And because I always said, I am never, ever owning a restaurant. I was like, there's a lot of chefs that they dream of opening a restaurant. And I had worked in restaurants for so long. I was like,
not a chance.
And they convinced me And I went into like a big money raise, raised a lot of money from investors with a corrupt business partner. So I have made all the mistakes. I always say, I'm like, I have made all of the mistakes in business. And, that's one of my things where I'm like, I really think I can save you people from a lot of them. It's so easy as you progress along the road to think everyone knows, everyone knows, everyone knows. And it's like, you know what? I didn't know. And the amount of, I remember when I got my first business coach probably 7 years ago, and it was like, oh, now I see. I mean, I had been in therapy for a very long time, but I was like, wait a minute, business therapy, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that happened. And then, so the company then became, 2 restaurants, a big catering company, right? So the original business called Tim the Girl grew into what became a successful big catering company. I opened a restaurant called The Good Kind. I opened a second location of the restaurant called The Good Kind. And then we opened our own event venue called Ivy Hall. And so now it is The Good Kind Hospitality Group, which when COVID hit, I closed one of the restaurants. So we have one restaurant, catering company, event venue, and we do all kinds of community events. I also have a nonprofit called Be the Good Kind. And work with Italian Fix, which is my friend's tour company in Italy in the summer. And here we are, and the kid is now in college.
Wow, what a journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that everyone knows, and the business therapy, because that is so intriguing. What a great angle, because you're right. Everybody knows once you're there, you think everybody knows, but the reality is nobody knows, because nobody teaches this stuff. And why is it that we all have to start from zero?
Right.
And learn from the same pathway, when there are people like Tim here to go, I can help you figure a lot of this out, because you can see what we can't see, because you're looking backwards, and everybody knows hindsight's 2020.
Absolutely.
So talk a little bit about what you're doing now to help business owners with this business therapy idea.
Yeah, I mean, so we have 2. I started so it's called the Bravery Strategy, and I still am pretty active in my main business, but I spent the last 5 years, like we implemented the Entrepreneur Operating System about 5 years ago, and that has morphed into a few different things. I'm a big believer in, I think it gets complicated, especially nowadays, with almost too much information out there. Let's just say too much information for sure. Absolutely. And too many, like, this is the way. That is one of my things that makes me the most crazy. There is no one the way. Everyone invented all the ways based on some other way, and it all came right. Like, trust yourself and come to a point where you find your own way. The thing is, I think it is very important, it was for me, to learn a way, right? Good. An organizational system, and then you can modify that. It's like learn the rules before you break the rules, right? And so we offer to, I have a business partner in the Bravery Strategy. She is a highly trained mindset coach. I'm a little bit more the nuts and bolts, and the harder kind of business questions. And we have 2 ways that people can work with us. One is as a startup, creative, visionary, passion-based project. You want to get that underway, and simple things often where, like, I remember when I think I had been in business for quite a while before there was some license thing came up that I was like, what? I didn't know. I have clients that I've had where they didn't know for 2 years they're supposed to pay sales tax. Yeah. I mean, there are very, very simple nuts and bolts things. And of course you can learn tons online. I mean, I just think for me, and I've never been without a business coach since I got one, and they've changed who they are maybe. And someone's like other therapists, it morphs through time. And then we also do people that are at a further stage in their business where, like with me, where until I committed to an organizational system and really dug into things like purpose and mission and what rhythms and what systems we're going to use. And because almost any problem that arises, even now, it's so easy to go, what's the next new thing? And what's this? And I need this and I need this and spending all this money. And then you're just like, you just usually have to hone it in again and go back to the basics and be like, wait a minute, we stopped doing these meetings. Wait a minute. And as much as you know about it and you think you're doing it, for me, unless you have an accountability measure, and it's hard work in the beginning, because there's a lot of people that are years down in their business. They're like, what do you mean? Like everything's like works. And I'm especially in hospitality.
Oh, I can imagine.
It is so common that you are so incredibly reliant on like a couple of people. And if something happened to those couple of people, like you're in big trouble, or yourself.
Yes.
Right. So it's like, how do you get yourself out of your business a little bit more? Like I said, I still do a lot, but I have crafted things that all of my jobs are not in anything day to day. They can all be done remotely. I am there, fairly often, but it doesn't require me to be there. It doesn't require my brain vault for everything to run.
Yeah. And I love the way you just said that it doesn't require it. And I think there are a lot of business owners listening to this right now who really don't own a business. They own a high-paying job.
Yeah. Or a low-paying job. Like, wait a minute, Michael, you're being very positive
generous.
there.
I'm being very generous. Yes.
You're being generous.
You're right. And too many times, one of the banes of one of my pet peeves, right, is one of all the coaches out there who have certificate from some coaching program versus the School of Hard Knocks. Number one. Number two are the people who say, I can help you get a 7-figure business. Let's go do it. And it's not true, because you don't have the systems in place. You don't have the mindset of, I am a business owner. Talk about that.
Yeah.
And how you help business owners think differently and then operate different. We run on EOS too. So I'm all over that. And I'm trying to work myself out of my business same way. And it's about another 3 to 5 year process until I'm where you are, right? But I've got the vision, I've got the people, I've got the systems. We're moving in that direction.
Yeah.
Not that I'll ever leave my business, because I love my business. I just don't want to be in it every day, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking to that and the freedom that gives, not just to travel the world, but to live the life, to give more, to think more deeply, all of those things that we should be doing as entrepreneurs.
Right. Sorry. Can you rephrase that question?
Yeah, just to help, because I know you've got a framework that you work with people, because you're working with, let's say, either the startup or maybe the mature business who's been there for a few years, and they're hitting the wall. Maybe they've not hired a coach and they're scared. They don't know what it is. Talk about that pathway of how do you just engage with a business owner who's maybe stuck. And
I think for the later stage, I mean, the startup is, the person with the cool idea, like we can definitely help those people. But that's a different, like my superpower is far more, I think what prevents a lot of people from going there is, let's face it, I think everyone, including me, often, right? You have imposter syndrome. It's not real what I did. Oh my God, if I open the veil, right? Like someone, what are they going to see? Are you embarrassed, ashamed of things? There's so many factors but I think those are the base level ones, right? Like it's hanging by a thread. I mean, so I do a lot with the James Beard Foundation, because I won like an entrepreneur leadership award in 2019, and you do a whole business kind of boot camp with them. And I'm very connected with that group in my life. And I recently went to a chef's boot camp, and it was about making policy change for teaching chefs how to write and implement, like fight for policy change, how to be politicians, teaching chefs how to be politicians kind of, and without fail, every single final presentation of 15 people, I would say 13 of them, the final presentation was about how much they have lost touch with their family, had no routine for self-care, how, and you look at this and it's so like, you can hear, it's something you can hear about it over and over and over again. And it seems cliche, and it seems like, let's say it, I found this hilarious. I have a friend that all we do is send funny memes from Instagram back and forth, funny reels, but it said, the reason men don't talk about self-care is because there are women. And it was like, a little bit true, right? You're like, especially as female hospitality, like restaurateurs, small business owners, life is brutal. And it's become now where there is this shift to like, sure, you get a lot of fame and glory. Everyone's like, be on my TV show. I've done lots of TV, but whose business is making them a living at all?
Right.
You're being asked to do free things all the time. So it's that, like, I remember when I first opened up everything to somebody else that was an outsider and was like, okay, here's what I have. Because from there, when you are doing so many of the jobs in your business, it's I think near to impossible to work your way out of it.
Yep.
Without the guidance of somebody be like, okay, let's sit down and ask ourselves the hard questions. Because I think a lot of people forget even why they are doing what they're doing. It's happened to me, and all the time I have to revisit that and be like, I'm not saying maybe I even could totally get out of it right now, but I'm like, wait a minute, bringing it all back in a little bit and like, wait, why are we doing this?
Yep.
Why should other people want to be doing this with me? What are our systems? What are our beliefs? What are, I have an amazing business coach I've worked with for the last probably 4 years. And he and his company developed a system, let's say an EOS-ish offshoot, like they can work together, called 6 Levers. And my partner and I have been doing that training for about a year now. And it is really an incredible system for you're already further along, and, simple things like, how do you get the culture, right? Which is, again, in hospitality, brutal.
Yeah.
Right. Like really brutal. So it's allowing yourself, I think it's like doing yourself the favor of letting someone else in on the real story, and someone who's going to hold you accountable and ask you those difficult questions. And I'd say that is my superpower.
And that's so good and so needed. What you're talking about is what I refer to as CEO work.
Mm-hmm.
And I've pivoted in my business. I've been here 11 years doing this, and I've pivoted in the last year and a half to say, no, yeah, I used to be the president, used to be the founder. Great, those are awesome. No, I'm the CEO. And I need to be at that higher level, looking down the road, looking at culture, looking at hiring, looking at systems, and making sure I've got the right people in the right place. And I'm with you. I've been in masterminds and had business coaches for 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's good because it's a place where I can be, if I show up right, I can be vulnerable and transparent with no condemnation. It's not like a coach is expecting me to be anything except like ignorant. Saying, dude, I get it. I've been there.
Yeah.
And there's so much freedom there.
Absolutely. And I think something else to touch on that I find, interesting, sort of essential, is also that I'm never looking for a coach that is saying that they know everything.
Oh, no.
Right. Because I'm also just like, I'm sorry, everyone, there's no end, just like personal therapy. I mean, the amount of times I've had, because I've been in therapy for 20 years, variety of kinds, personal, business, all of it. And there's people that will say like, well, I don't even understand why you bothered if it's never done. And I'm like, well, new doors open all the time. And the more you know, the more you don't know.
That's right.
And so I think that in looking for a business coach, I think it's super important it's like, I always am surprised, and maybe someone has, but there's not like a Tinder-ish Bumble thing for coaching, right? For matching you to a right coach.
Yeah.
Wait, don't tell anyone that.
That's right. Yeah. That's your business, Tim.
But I think it is really important. It's a value system, right? And it's not that you want, but I do think, look, I don't think, everyone has to think like me, but there are basic kind of listen to people, what resonates with you. Do not go with anyone who's like, I can make sure in 6 months you're going to make $1 million. I'm just like, hey, that's bullshit.
Right.
And
it's hard work, and it takes time. And going back even to the EOS system or your 6 levers system is, unfortunately, and you don't know this about us, I've got a son who is my COO, Caleb. Everybody needs a Caleb, is what I say, because I'm the visionary. He's the implementer. he read EOS a few years ago. He says, Daddy, we're going to do EOS. I'm like, okay, what's EOS? And because of him and his abilities to read a book and implement, which most entrepreneurs don't have because we're just too busy.
Yeah.
You need a business coach to guide you through the process, because if you bring EOS or 6 levers to me, I'm going to go, poke me in the eye. Okay, I don't have, but I need you to go, no, here's what we're working on this week.
Yeah.
And next week, I'm going to ask you, because this is important stuff, Michael.
Yeah.
You really want your business to grow? Do you want your life back? This is it.
Yeah.
And so many times it seems backwards, because you're going to tell me to do something that has nothing directly to do with moving the needle.
Yeah.
But it has everything to do with becoming the operator I need to be. Is that fair?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And
super important. And I think it's like, you know, I have done, my poor team, you know, I'll come back from something and they're just like, what is she doing now? Because I'm like, oh my God, this is blah, blah, blah. And they're just sitting there like waiting to like putting their armor on, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that also, like, I'm all about like, try something, see what works.
Sure.
And I think that it's interesting because I am like the quintessential visionary, and I've written every kind of culture index. We've done all the things, right? Gallup strengths, this, all the things. I've been in workshops before where people come along and like see my scores of all the things. And they're just like, whoa, we hope you have a lot of good people around you. Like you're not even capable of a detail. But at the same time, since I feel like those kind of systems saved my life, like there were such times of darkness where, you know, and on social media, it's like, oh my God, Tim the girl and this and everything's so amazing, whatever. And I'm like laying under my bed, eating with Doritos falling down my face, like binge watching a show. I can't even remember what it was. Right. So those, I think, are the time. What made me, through having what I feel like my life saved with these systems, I am actually really good at doing them for other people.
Yeah.
I have my implementer in my business, and he is my like best friend in the entire universe.
Right.
So yeah. I think I find it fascinating, and it's something when the younger me that was just like, woo, whatever, like I know everything.
And the other thing that what I have found in working with coaches is that it allows me to make a bigger impact in life, not just in my business.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right?
I mean, with your friends, I mean, I think that's what I've become what I try to be for my company is kind of everybody's coach. I mean, even when I am out of town, I'm having one-on-ones with each of my leadership team, and, you know, hey, I've sent all my leadership team has gone through 6 levers training, and I make sure that because I think that's a very easy one as a CEO, owner of a company, is you're like all moving and shaking and learning all these cool things, whatever. And then you're coming home and you're just like barfing it out on your staff, and they just want to kill you. Like, please just go away and stay away. And so I'm really like, I want them to learn as much as I am, like what do they need? What resonates with them? I constantly am like, look, I think this is a good way, but it absolutely might not be the right way. So it's like, and that's something I think about specifically our coaching is it's very like holding you accountable, but not like this is the one and only way.
Right. Well, and I want you to dive in a little bit deeper of what it looks like coaching wise. But one of the things that I think I'm hearing is, and what I've experienced is, it's not, here's the way. It's the dialogue between the coach and the client that really is when the ahas come. The questions that Tim's going to ask you. Yeah. That's where the therapy happens in your brain, and going, well,
right. Because I don't even think I could speak to like how it happens, because it is something that's like, it's leaving space, it's listening, I mean, again, like I said, it's like business therapy to
I
some
love it.
degree. And yes, there are like very like, I can dig into people's financials. Like I'm absolutely going to be like, you have to share your financials with me if you want. I'm not going to say I'm some fractional CFO, but I do know how to basically, I mean, I taught myself all of these things on YouTube because I was like, whoa, the business partner, this and everything's crazy. And I don't know what a P&L is. And I have like this company and I just raised $500,000. What the hell?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm going to look at those things and there are very real things. I'm not saying like, oh, it's just kind of this esoteric thing out there because that's not it at all, but it's a combination of the two.
Yeah, absolutely. And because of your experience in building businesses, in having bad business partners, in having coaches, in having systems, EOS and the 6 levers and things, talk just briefly as we start winding up the 6 levers and things, that might not even be important. How does somebody work with you when they come to what are they struggling with when they first reach out and say, okay, we might need to do something together. What's going on in their business, in their life? What's that internal struggle?
So I'm going to say the startup one is, I'll kind of gloss over that a bit because that's pretty obvious. The further along stage, I'd say you feel some, you feel a success, but you have no life outside of your business.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie and be like, I don't think about my business all the time, because I do. And I think people are full of shit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say shit on your podcast. That say that, oh, I worked my way to whatever, and now like I only like work 1 hour a day, whatever, sure. But I mean, at that point, sell your company.
That's right.
But it's more asking that maybe it is that your next step is to sell your company. Like what are your options? You're feeling like kind of out of control, kind of burned out. You're facing the exact same problems over and over again. The same issues with staff, the same this. It's kind of like Groundhog Day, quite a bit of burnout, a feeling maybe you have purpose, but probably a little bit purposeless because you've been just kind of beaten down day to day. You're doing too many of the jobs. You definitely don't have free time. You are relying way too much on certain people's capabilities. And if they were gone, all hell is going to break loose. Because nobody else knows the systems, not a real set organization and infrastructure. Systems are not in place. If somebody asked you your elevator pitch of your kind of mission, your business's mission, purpose, what are the rhythms you're in? You would not know any of these things.
Right.
You maybe don't even exactly know what it is. Right. And so that's like totally fine. I mean, I think it's like, oh, we do this because we love people. Okay. But really forcing, it's like you want to have more organization in your life and feel like, I think that honestly, I'll say, I feel like, and I know this was the case for me, my beginning of my business came out of like, I had just come out of a very toxic relationship. I have look, at this point in life, I don't think there's many people without a decent amount of trauma in their life.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of people that start businesses, look, it's very different too. You go into business and you already have a lot of money and security behind you. Okay. That's a very different business than I have to make a living.
That's right.
So different kinds of stress. And I'm saying equal, both people may want, how do I get those systems? And that's fine. But I think that this on the side of, I actually have to make a living, because I know that was a big one for me when I realized that a lot of people had what I call a vanity business, but I didn't, who knows that in the beginning, right? I'm like, how is it possible that they're only charging blah, blah, all the things are like, oh, they don't, right, actually to make a living from this and like raise their family. So the point of that is that I think people can enter very dysfunctional, sort of toxic relationships with their business based on the fact that you're just used to working yourself to death And you feel like if you don't work yourself to death, like, look, we all grew up in a pretty like systemic, patriarchal, like Protestant work ethic kind of world where if you're not suffering to some degree, then like then you're full of, you're not doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not, on the other hand, saying, because I do get driven a little crazy, so I know I'm maybe going on a bit long, but with this, I think there's something developing now where the shame that comes from like, I'm not manifesting properly enough. I also think that is kind of bullshit. Okay. So I'm like, there is an in between where I just think you need to figure out your relationship with your business, and you need to set boundaries with your business in an appropriate way and use systems for it and stick to those systems. It's very simple. It's just, it takes some really hard work in the beginning. So like I may have a client that comes on and I would be, writing up a proposal for, a 2-week audit with the company and with the people that work there. And what are the systems you're currently using, and compiling all of that, sitting with the CEO and saying, hey, let's get down to work. What are the things you want to set up and be in alignment with and whatnot?
That's good. So I'm summarizing all of that in 2 words. If you and your business and your vision are cloudy versus clear,
yeah,
you need to reach out to Tim, because I think a lot of business owners are cloudy in a lot of the things, and you unpacked a bunch. Go back and just hit the rewind button and go back and just re-listen to what she was talking about. Burnout, facing the same issues, frustrated, beaten down, purposeless, no hope, pressure, no freedom, all of that. If you're feeling that you're cloudy, if you can't articulate your purpose, your mission, your vision powerfully to your team, to others, you're cloudy. And if you're cloudy, you need a breakthrough. You need clarity, and that's what Tim can bring you. So you're right, Tim. We could talk for like hours. This is really cool. And
maybe we will one day.
That's right. That's right. So how do people take the next step with you? How do they find out more about you, about what you can offer them in this business therapy? I love that. I love that.
So our website is thebraverystrategy.com.
Okay.
And we are on Instagram at The Bravery Strategy. And you can also check out a little more of what I do at Tim the Girl.
TimTheGirl.com?
TimTheGirl.com and at Tim the Girl on Instagram.
Oh, at Tim the Girl. Got it.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Okay, I'm gonna have all that in the show notes, because if you're listening to this, you're probably walking the dog or exercising, or maybe dealing with an issue that keeps popping back up, and you're looking for hope and clarity, and this is where you find it. So go to the show notes, find those links, reach out to Tim and have a conversation and see how she can help you with her vast experience, clarify some things in your life, bring some clarity and some hope to say you really can have the life, the business you want. You can have a great relationship with your business, with your life. And that's what it's all about. That's what we're supposed to be doing. So reach out to Tim. I've got all the links in the show notes. Go check them out. Tim, thank you. This has been very, very cool.
Thank you, Michael.